Reverend is a fun, bite-sized FPS inspired by boomer shooters from the 90s like Duke Nukem and Blood. Developed by one man, Twisted Sickle, the amount of charm in this little game is impressive. You play as a former Reverend, now the caretaker of an old church. Demons and monsters have taken over the church grounds, and it's your job to put an end to it. There are 8 levels in the game, and I completed it in less than an hour. If you're looking for a fun little experience at a low price, you've come to the right place. Twisted Sickle deserves some love for this game, so let's get right into this. The weapons were all fun to use and the enemies were fun to destroy. The hammer is the only melee weapon, and you'll need it to smash open barriers which often lead to secrets. The pistols, or peacebreakers, are useful in the first couple levels but quickly get outclassed since ammo for everything is plentiful if you keep an eye out for secrets. The shotgun, or boomer, is such a satisfying weapon to use. The manual refers to it as old reliable, and I have to agree. It felt great to blast monsters in the face with this boomstick. Loved it. The forbidden fruit explodes when thrown at enemies, and to reload you take a bite, which I thought was really charming. Finally, there's the Shatterer, a weird bone-looking thingy that acts as a machine gun but fires teeth at your enemies. It's a unique weapon design, and its ability to stun-lock enemies makes it very useful in the late game. The combat and controls feel fluid and responsive. It feels really good to run around the arenas blasting monsters as they all converge on you. Speaking of monsters, the enemies in Reverend are pretty varied too. Offsins are dog-like creatures that are easy to take down but can sneak up on you. Cultists wielding hammers or rifles can be found all over the place. Abominations are these flying weirdos that shoot projectiles at you, but luckily they're pretty easy to dodge. Later in the game, you'll encounter these weird spider things that drop teeth. Tentacle monsters pursue you relentlessly and shoot projectiles, and these shadow creatures are probably the most dangerous enemy in the game because they can tank a lot of damage. Along the way, you'll encounter environmental hazards like explosive barrels, damaging floors, and these weird wall turret things that track you and fire projectiles. I've mentioned secrets a couple times so far, and I really like the level design in Reverend. There's some light platforming, and you'll have to learn how to crouch jump if you aren't used to that. There's so many secrets hidden throughout the levels, I thought I was being thorough, but I probably missed a ton. In the first level, I walked through a bush and saw this tombstone blocking my path, and I thought nothing of it. Later in the level, I realized I could break the tombstones with a hammer, so I ran back to the bush, broke the tombstone, and found a secret push wall with some supplies behind it. I really appreciate it when games make me ask what if, and then reward me for trying something. That's awesome design. The levels are laid out in such a way that backtracking won't be much of an issue. You'll usually find shortcuts leading back to where you need to go. The only level I got lost in was the second to last one, and even then, the levels are all pretty small, so it's not too bad to run back through everything. The art style of Reverend is really cool and effective, especially with the music. The traditional levels all feature ambient tracks that really make a spooky atmosphere. There were a couple times where I jumped a little after an enemy snuck up on me. The lighting in many places is dark and moody, but you do get a flashlight. The boss levels are short and fun, and the pumping kick-ass music does a great job of hyping me up for the fights. As the game goes on, it becomes more unsettling thanks to this creepy art style which pairs beautifully with the ambient music. My favorite parts were the later levels, where you get to explore this grotesque, hellish environment. The atmosphere of the levels was one of my favorite things about Reverend. You can tell this was a labor of love for Twisted Sickle. Even the manual that comes with the game emulates that old school feel. I'm going to talk about the boss levels now, so if you don't want any spoilers, skip ahead to the timestamp here for my thoughts on the game overall. The first boss is the Sin Beast, and I thought it was a pretty fun fight. The arena featured a ton of damaging floors, so I had to watch my step while taking potshots at him until he died. The turrets and the walls forced me to keep moving, which made the fight much more engaging, since the only thing the Sin Beast can do is charge at me. The Abominator is a fairly easy fight. He shoots these projectiles, but they move slowly and there's plenty of cover. The real threat in this level comes from the other enemies and the turrets again. The third boss, Venus Termina, was the most memorable for me. Her attacks are hit scan, which makes her the most deadly of all the bosses, but sadly she gets absolutely shredded by the Shatterer. There was all this ammo hidden on the beams above the level, but I didn't really need it because she died so quickly. If she had more health, this fight would have been a lot more fun. Finally, there's the Wailing Wall, a massive heart with a lot of health supported by these tentacle monsters and a ton of turrets. The main challenge here is dodging bullet hell, but the projectiles move pretty slowly, so it's not too bad. Again, I thought this boss was slightly disappointing because I thought the wall itself should have had some sort of attack, or at least spawn in more enemies after the tentacles have been killed. I had a good time dodging the turret projectiles, but it felt just a little anticlimactic for me. Reverend is a charming game with lots of personality, but with a couple of flaws. Firstly, whenever you pick up an item, the flash is a bit much. That should be toned down. Second, the combat feels a bit too easy, especially against some of the bosses. If ammo and health were less plentiful, I'd be more incentivized to use all my weapons and to play more carefully. Despite these flaws, overall I enjoyed my time with Reverend. If you're a fan of boomer shooters and want a short but sweet atmospheric experience, I'd recommend it. It's only $3, which I think is a fair price for an experience that you can finish in an hour or less. In today's gaming market, where AAA developers continuously put out disappointing titles, it's more important than ever to support indie developers whose games are passion projects. So go check out Reverend and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel for more fun gaming content. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out for now.